Hello and welcome to the Richness of. This evening is about connections. This is the show that's really meant to help you lead a happier, healthier, and richer lifestyle. Today we're going to really talk about the richness of connections with my dear friend, Annie Garland. Annie is truly a connector. I have endless stories about how she's connected amazing people together. Annie is also a best-selling author. She's published her book, which is called Secrets of a Serial Networker. It's no joke, she is a serial networker. And so with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Annie Garland. Annie, thank you, my dear friend, for being here. You are truly an amazing connector. I still, to this day, when I'm in an event with you, watch you closely. And I love, it's like watching you go. It's like a wind-up doll. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing with the world this beautiful book that teaches us so much about networking and people and events and what we should be doing so that we can step out and really make the best at being at events, and also how it's okay to feel uncomfortable sometimes at an event and how to get through that.
Yes.
In addition to being a great book author, you also are a well-renowned speaker, and I know that you, because I have attended many of them, host these lovely women events, and your real passion, I think, in life is bringing women together.
Yes, it is. And I just want to go back to the book for a moment. It's actually 3 books in one, because I started writing about in-person networking, which is really my jam, because connecting is so important. We are born, our DNA is so tied into meeting other people, connecting. If you can think of like little babies, if they were left alone and they didn't have any connection, we would wither without that human touch, right?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I am such a believer in connecting. I've been doing it ever since I can remember, right? And I'm probably going to touch on a few events that I've done. But yeah, so the book starts with in-person networking, and that happened before COVID. And then I'm writing along, and then all of a sudden COVID hits, and then I'm like on Zoom with hundreds of people, and I'm looking at what they're doing, and there's men sitting way back like this, and they're a million miles away, and you can see their little faces, and they were doing everything all wrong. So I said, I've got to shift gears. What I want to do is write a little book on split-second connections gone virtually. So that's my actual second section of my book, tips on doing Zoom. And 80% of what you do in person is really the same as Zoom, and with a few hints in there too. And then the third section is all about doing events, your own events, where you can be the star and do backroom sales if you're into marketing or selling. So I just wanted to give myself a plug on that one so people understand.
And how do people, if somebody wants to get a copy of this book, where do they find it?
Well, I'm online. You can get it on Amazon. I am in every bookstore. You can order it. If you go to your local bookstore, they can order it if they don't have it on the shelf. I have it at my distribution center, so you can get it there. Yes, that's how you get my book.
So I have to ask, what's with the chicken on the cover? Why is there a chicken? Why are you holding a chicken? I think it's so funny. It's
well,
cute.
the chicken, there's a metaphor for that. But number one, when you're at a networking event, don't you want to be memorable? And by the way, there are hundreds of networking books. And I wanted mine to have a little bit of a standout. And so I actually brought Dixie with me. She comes with me wherever I go. And so this is Dixie. And so
she looks like a good networker.
Yeah, she is. She doesn't say much though. So yeah, and the chicken on the book. So you have to be memorable.
Well, you
I
have
guess
to tell
that's
me
it.
the joke. What is the joke? You always,
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So when you think about a rubber chicken or a chicken, you know, the first thing you say is, the joke is, why did the chicken cross the road? And the first thing you'll say is to
get to the other side.
Yes, but why did the chicken want to get to the other side? To meet other chicks or other people. And it's actually a metaphor for, is the risk of not crossing greater than crossing? Right. And when you're at a networking event, many people, there's a lot of people who are really shy and inward, and they don't know how to approach someone. So approaching someone, is that more of a risk, not approaching, or going for it? Go for the gold and go in and meet somebody.
But sometimes there's that awkwardness, right? So I walk into an event and everybody seems to kind of know someone, everybody's chatting and I'm standing there, right? Like how do you break into a conversation, or how do you kind of,
That's one of my secrets. So what you want to do is look for somebody who's standing or sitting alone, because guess what? They don't like to network either. So you want to go up to them, get your courage up. If you're sort of somewhat of an introvert, get your courage up, go over to them and just say, hey, I set a goal this morning to meet 1 or 2 people that I've never met before. I saw you sitting here. I really don't like networking either, if that's true, of course. So I wanted to introduce myself to you. And then you want to ask a question. You want to ask an open-ended question. So what brought you here today? That's like the easiest thing you can ask them. And they'll say, well, I wanted to see the speaker, or I was interested in the program. You'll start that conversation, which is so important. So
I remember hearing, and I love, I think I learned it from one of my MBA teachers, and I just always loved what he said. He would always say, always remember, regardless of what meeting you're at, don't try to be the smartest person at the meeting. It's better to be interested than to be interesting.
Yes, that is true. And that's one thing I like about people who are shy again. A lot of people don't know how to approach them, or they don't know how to say what they need to say. And so, but just what you just said, they're so interesting. If you give them the chance to really have that conversation with them, I have learned so much about the world and people just by asking a lot of questions and going deeper with people in conversations, because everybody has a great story. You just need to give them the time. And just as you said, be interested
It's
in
better
them
to be interested than to be
interesting.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, so let me ask you another question. So now I walk into this party, but now let's say I want to meet Lori, right? But Lori is surrounded by all these people. She's clearly one of the most popular people at the party, right, or the networking event. Any tips on how do you kind of get in there? Because you really want to leave with meeting Lori, because Lori seems to be like a major connector at this party. She knows everyone, or, how do you do that?
Well, first of all, there's a body language that you might want to...
So I don't go in and push myself into
No, but you want to see how they're standing.
Sure.
Right? If they're open, their feet are open, they're going to welcome you in. If their feet are closed and they're sort of not opening, you don't want to approach that group, because they won't be welcoming. But I would also keep my eye on that one, and if you know somebody, you can ask them, do you have a relationship with Lori, right? Do you know her? I'd like to introduce myself to her.
Yes.
So you could ask around on that. So
Right.
there's ways of doing that.
That's very interesting. And you talked about going, saying to somebody you have a goal of meeting 3 people at the networking event.
1 or 2. You only want to meet 1 or 2.
So that was my question. Is it really 1 or 2, or is there?
Well, it depends on the meeting. If there's a speaker, you only have so much time that you can network before the speaker comes on.
Right.
And you want to spend time with that person, because you want to walk away with, it's like finding gold, I believe. When you approach someone, you want to ask them open-ended questions, as I said. You want to really get to know them. You want to really look in their eyes and focus on them. You want to make like there's nobody else in the room when you introduce yourself.
Well, you do that very well. You do that incredibly.
Your eyes are just, there's so much to people's eyes. You can see their smile and their soul. And when they see that you're very focused on them, they know that you're interested in them. So there's where that comes in.
Right, absolutely.
So there's that.
So I remember when I was introduced to you first. Somebody mentioned Annie Garland. You have to meet Annie Garland. And I had just moved into town. I had, little one, and I was like, oh gosh, I already have so many friends. Do I really need to meet Annie Garland? I was just like, I don't have time. I'm working full time. I have babies. But I do remember calling you, and we had a great conversation. And I remember you invited me to an event that evening.
A networking event.
And we had such a great conversation. It was so exciting. And I'm driving to the event, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I never even asked her what she looks like, what she's wearing. How am I going to find this Annie Garland? And it was interesting because, again, walking in, there was a little bit of that uncomfortableness. But it was actually kind of nice to be able to say, oh, hi, I'm Sylvia, and I'm looking, do you know Annie Garland? I'd like to meet, which, by the way, everybody in the room knew you. But it was nice to have also a reason, right? Like coming in and saying, I'd like to meet Annie Garland. Can you introduce me? So you're right, there is something nice about that.
Yeah, or ask somebody that you might know there, do you know Laurie? I'd really like to meet with her.
Exactly.
Oh, and everybody knows Laurie. What do you mean? So
exactly.
There you go.
And you've been very successful too about being invited to speak at certain events and getting yourself out there. How do you do that? Like, how do you get yourself into these wonderful circles and invitations to speak and to do all the wonderful things that you're doing?
Well, first of all, I'm a member of National Speakers Association, Connecticut chapter, and I'm on the board, and I was past president. And just connecting through people and just letting them know. You always want to, people usually say, how can I help you? I know that's a lot when people meet people. Mm-hmm. You would say, is there anything I can do to help you? Because it's not about what you need, it's really how can I help you when you meet somebody. So I would say to somebody, how can I help you? And then they'll probably say, well, how can I help you? I'm always looking for speaking gigs, how I can help and train people. That's my jam, doing that. Yeah. What I wanted to share with you is that, do you know, and I want to go back in time a little bit in my history, mm-hmm. Do you know there was a time when you couldn't make a phone call without connecting with an operator? And that's where the connection comes in, and I kind of wanted to bring that into this conversation. So back in the day, they had these long boards. Have you ever seen, do you remember when you couldn't?
I think on I Love Lucy.
No, it was Laugh-In.
Yeah.
Right? Where Ernestina with the headphones, and she had the big board. She was a telephone operator.
I don't know about that, but okay.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Yeah, well, anyway, that was me back decades ago.
Uh-huh.
So the point is, I've been connecting forever, and I just wanted to share that. So thought that might be a point of interest for your people out in there, know a little bit about that.
It is. Well, and I like because you're full circle too, right? You've published the book, you speak, but you also have your ladies group, right?
Oh, I love my ladies. I love my ladies.
So there's a lucky, how many, 20 or?
What, 35?
35.
Yeah.
That belong to the
Chick Club?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Again, the chick, bringing the chick back in.
Yeah, she's here, yes.
But I love that on a monthly basis, you're really making an effort to get women at the same place, connecting different women together, constantly onboarding new women to come and join, introducing them to the group. So tell me a little bit about, again, like what motivates you to do that, and what do you find that what comes out of it for you that's rewarding for you?
That's my jam. So I know that women are really busy, like a Sylvia. You are so busy that you don't have time to play. And I'm all about play. We need play in our life. And so I thought, well, if I can get entrepreneurial women or women who work for C-suite, then they needed to get out there and play. Mm-hmm. I would create a space for them. Once a month we'll get together, either on a Zoom call or we'll do some crazy event that I'll come up with. Like last year we went to Gypsy at Goodspeed Opera House, and then we had dinner after. We did a boat ride out in the Thimble Islands. That was another one. I mean, there was just so many things that we can do. I've got line dancing coming up on the agenda. Oh, and then I just did a winter's camp for women, so that was a blast. But women need to have an excuse or a reason to get out there, and so I give them that reason. That's just one thing. And I love doing larger events where I've done Women Honoring Women. That's been an event that I've done.
Oh, tell us, okay, so
Which
I
one?
have gone to about 17 of those, right? I think you're up to your
What?
20th?
Oh, girls gathering at the Grizz?
Yes.
That's what you're talking
Yes.
about. I'm on my 22nd year, so next year, 24 will be 23 years. Yeah.
Right.
So
So while the book just came out a couple of years ago, I think what's important for everybody to hear is like this has been ingrained in, you've been doing these women gathering events forever. You have, in some way, shape, or form. You've been bringing great women together. And doing something, I think what I enjoy about your events and what you do, which really inspires me, is you always have some kind of really kind of neat but educational component to it, right? Whether it's, learning about something about spirituality or learning something about, beauty or cosmetics, or usually have, by the way, your event is the entire event. I think you hit all the hot spots for ladies. You also, when I go to your events, you usually have vendors, so there's clothes or there's jewelry.
It's a 3-ring circus.
Yeah, so it's really, you get a lot done in a couple of
do.
hours.
Yes, we
right?
do. Yeah. It's always been my passion to just bring women together, and what I like is somebody like you, or there's so many people that have such a gift that I want to take them from the sidelines and put them in the spotlight so that they can share their gifts, that everybody else can join together. And I'm constantly connecting women to do that. All of my events, I'm just bringing people that I come up with something new, like a psychic, or you've had speakers here that I would bring into my events.
Oh God, do you remember that Valentine's Day, the event that you did? I think
which
it was
one?
at the Bee and Thistle.
Oh, that was, yeah.
That was a fun one.
It was sexuality, that one.
You had the speaker. She
Yes, she was a doctor on sexuality, and then we had we had lingerie there as well, and beautiful jewelry.
Right.
All things that
gorgeous
would
jewelry.
all things that would interest the senses.
Right.
So, and then we had a sleepover too.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
So-
We did martinis and our PJs
And popcorn.
And
Yep.
it was nice because I think it gave everybody too. I think what you do, it was, again, there was a professional speaker. It opened up topics
that we
don't necessarily always talk about, right?
Yeah.
Or it was nice to have a guided topic. And then it was nice because it was about Valentine's Day and you tied it all in. So I
Yes.
just, again, I always admire your creativity. Now I have to ask, you talked about the book and you talked about there's 3 different sections. So tell me a little bit about the Zoom part. So, what do you recommend to people when they're on a Zoom? Because sometimes it could be a little bit awkward, right? You're on with all these different boxes, right? And sometimes you're like, oh, it might be better if I'm just quiet, right? And just observe.
Oh.
How do you kind of step into your...
That's really a good question. I'm glad you brought that up. You really want to turn on your light. I mean, if you don't turn on your light and you're not exposed,
Right.
and they can't see you, what's the point? If you don't care about networking, and if you're on the Zoom and you want to network, you want to have a great background because people see people. You
Gravitate,
Yeah,
yes.
you gravitate to that. You also want to look as professional as you are. It doesn't mean you have to put a suit on, but just level up a little so that you could be seen. I have met more people easily on Zoom, but the in-person heart-to-heart connection doesn't really happen then. But it is easy to meet people on Zoom because you always, if you have the opportunity to speak and at least say something, you'll get noticed. And depending how you appear, people might, if you're up there and you're saying something that's interesting, or I even see somebody who I kind of target and their name is up there, I'll go on LinkedIn and check them out. And then I'll do a little chat with them and say, hey, I checked you out on LinkedIn. While you're here, I'd like to maybe connect with you a little more. So that's one way of doing it. Or if they have said something and you really were interested in what they had to say, what you said resonated with me, I'd really like to carry on the conversation if you're open to it.
Right. No, that's
so that's
excellent.
one thing. So I think connecting on Zoom is a lot easier, but same thing I say about in-person networking, arrive early, stay late, because when you start those Zoom meetings, there is always that little informal time, and you'll have that time to meet, and there's conversations going on.
Now that's an interesting tip.
Yeah.
So many times I think we're all trying to get on at the same time, and then you're just seeing everybody pop up, and it's a little more challenging. But I think you're right. I think
If you
arrive early.
Take 10 minutes, set up your camera and get it ready, and then pop in 10 minutes early, and people will not have all shown up yet. So you'll have a chance to chat, and that's how you get to know. And at the end, there's usually some time, that doesn't end.
Right.
Or the host might even say, oh, stay on for a little after talk.
Oh, I love
and you
that.
want to take advantage of those times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you want to look good, and you do want to show up
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
and participate.
That makes sense.
Those are some really, really important tips.
Sure. And then the third section then?
That's on doing your own events. So if you were ever wanting to do a retreat or you wanted to do some small event, I tell people to please read my third section, because I do something that you even bring up how great my events are. I have something I call my secret sauce that's in there. And it's something that I've held very close to my heart, but because I wanted to bring it out to the world and let the world know how to do something that's really very successful, and how I bring people from the beginning of the event all the way to the end, where they walk away and say, I've really enjoyed my experience. And there's tips in there on why I do them so well.
Oh,
So
I'm going to have to read up on that.
So it's my secret sauce.
Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing the secret sauce.
I think I call it Magical Mystery Tour.
I like that. I like that. So, so if I look through again, I think it is a book that is jam-packed with some great information. And what do you think is one of the top takeaways for somebody getting the book? What would be?
There's one chapter in there that catches a lot of attention. What does men's underwear have to do with networking?
Oh, yeah, that's very good. Do tell. We have a few more minutes before we wrap up. This could be a good way to wrap up.
So it's all about finding the right fit. I don't wear men's underwear, but I used to sell it.
No judgment. If you do,
I
that's
used to
fine.
sell it actually, and so I thought it would be kind of cute to put that in there. But just like just like underwear, you always want to find the right fit. Well, you want to find the right fit in your tribe. There's so many organizations out there. How do you find one that's right for you? So you want to go out there, try one time, and then you really, depending on how you feel about the people, and then you want to go a second time.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time, like, how do I know which one's right for me? Well, you'll know. You'll get the right vibe.
I think you're right. And you and I have had this discussion before. I think
Right.
you do feel it. And I think it's about where you can really be your true, authentic self, right? I think when you're trying to make yourself fit into something that is not comfortable, it's not serving you, it's not serving anyone else. I think when you go in and you could just be you and there's things in common.
Yeah.
You and I talked about it when I was first really kind of moving into my role as a financial advisor, right? And I used to try to be very professional and try to adjust my personality. And we talked about, no, you show up in the outfit you want to show up, and you show up and talk about and put yourself, I think, in situations, right, with people that you like, and you're naturally going to connect, which I thought was really great advice. I mean, that goes back now 17, 18 years that you give me that advice, but you truly are a leader in what you do. And I think that women are blessed to have you. Now, if people want to find you, how do they find you, Annie?
Well, my website is AnneGarlandEnterprises.com, and that's Anne with an E, but I pronounce it Annie when I meet with people because I'm so not an Anne. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I'm getting ready. I've just done this huge marketing promotional thing, so there's a lot of me out there now.
I have seen some really great videos, which is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I feel you're going to be getting very, very busy, busier than you already are. So I love that you took the time to be here today. And so if you had one takeaway for the audience, like what's the one thing?
It's where I say the difference between networking and connection. Networking is knowing more people. Connecting is knowing people more.
Oh, I love that.
So, and that's why I didn't write the book that said Secrets of a Serial Connector, because that didn't have the same resonance as connection or networking, because networking, that's all about business and connecting.
Right.
And connecting can be, transition into networking, it is. But it's knowing people more is connecting. And that's my jam.
Well, I love your jam. I think you do your jam incredibly well. And I do think that it really resonates, that it comes from your heart. You are a loving, kind person. And I think that you, again, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, but you have a gift for making whoever you're with feel like the most important person in the room.
That is important. Do take that away.
So
you take it away.
Well, thank you again, Annie,
Oh,
so much for
thanks,
being here.
Sylvia.
Thank you for sharing secrets from your book. And again, thank you for all the beautiful events that you do.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to having you hopefully back on again soon.
Thank you. I hope I can. Yes, that would be wonderful.